Welcome to Worthington Home. I'm Chris. Today we're going to talk about adding some vintage Valentine's Day decor to your home. And I think this is a great idea this time of year, especially if you live in a climate like I do in Connecticut, where it's cold and dark and bleak and blah. Adding pops of red and pink is exactly what's needed here. So I'm looking forward to getting started. And my number one way to decorate for any season is with antique postcards. And I have a really extensive collection of them. And they are so pretty and colorful, and they just add this immediate burst of fun and nostalgia to a space. People see them when they come over to my house, and they love to check them out, look at them closely, read the writing in the back if there is any, and I love it when there is. And to look at the old stamps and see where they were from. It's a fun collection, and it's a great starter collection for anybody who wants to add some vintage vibes to their home because they're really inexpensive and they're easy to find on eBay or Etsy. Sometimes you might see them in antique stores. I don't usually, but you can buy whole lots of antique postcards on eBay for very little money, and it's amazing how effective they are. Even if you only have 3 to 5, you can put them in a grouping and they really make a big statement. So I'm going to show you how I have them arranged for Valentine's Day this year. As you can see, I have my antique Valentine's Day postcards in this photo holder. I love this thing. It's not that old. It's from the 1990s. My brother bought it for me from a boutique in New Haven. I'm not even sure which one. But it's perfect for holding these pretty antique Valentine's Day postcards. And I think they're really pretty. As I said before, they're really colorful. They're fun to read. And they just brighten up these cold, dark winter days so beautifully. I have some other fun bits and pieces on my mantle in my kitchen that I want to show you as well. Here we have a little dish. Actually, it's a vintage ashtray, very well cleaned, don't fret. And I've put these little candy hearts in there. And I think they're so cute. And I love the sweet little messages on them. Did a little bit of research about candy hearts because I was curious about them, and I remember so well being in elementary school and kids would get boxes of these and trade them, and so I was wondering how long have these been around for, and it turns out that the candy themselves have been around since the 1800s, but the candy heart version came about in the early 1900s, and they were made by a company called Necco, New England Confectioner Candy Organization? I know, something like that. I'll put in a title so you can see what the real name is. But it turns out they're a New England company, which seems apt for a channel that is set in Connecticut. And I remember not loving the taste of them so much, but thinking that they were so sweet. I always enjoyed them. So I thought I would give this one a try to see if my taste buds have changed since elementary school. We'll see how it goes. What do you think, Indy? No, I think I'll stick to chocolate. They're pretty, but not delicious. Next to the candy hearts, I have 2 additional little postcards, and I have them standing here in this antique flower frog. Well, I don't know if it's antique or vintage. It's old at any rate, but it makes for a great stand for postcards or greeting cards or photographs. So very handy and fantastic for flower arrangement for sure. I have this heart tin that isn't very old at all. It's actually from a recent Goodwill thrift. And so is the ashtray that I put the candy hearts in. I'm gonna make something with these hearts. I haven't decided what. But in the meantime, I think they look pretty on the mantle. And then I have a heart-shaped candy box. And this one is just a Russell Stover one I picked up at Target. So it wasn't very expensive, but I definitely think it gives a nostalgic feel. Even though it isn't very old, it certainly is traditional and makes sense in a vintage Valentine's Day decor. So there we have it. And One of the interesting additions I have this year is this garland that I made. Don't worry, I won't quit my day job. My sewing skills only get me so far, but I thought they would be fun. I really find myself drawn to Valentine's Day garlands, but I didn't want anything in a really super bright color. I didn't want something red. I didn't want something very, very kitschy. So what I decided to do was take some remnants from my kitchen curtains and just sew them to the backing of some felt and string them on some yarn with a few pom-pom balls and just kind of drape them across the fireplace mantle. And I think it looks sweet. My next task for the day is going to be doing the fireplace mantle in the front parlor. So that should be a lot of fun, and I have a few ideas I want to share with you. Behind me, you can see the fireplace mantle as it's usually arranged when I'm not decorating for the seasons or doing anything special. Here's a closer look. I have this pretty pair of Victorian ewers. They're so lovely. Look how pretty they are. I could almost just leave these as part of the Valentine's Day decor, but the whole point of this is to change things up and to do something a little bit different. And I always have those out. This little horse was my mother's. He's not old. And we have some brass candlesticks. This old clock, which I do plan to leave here. And this little standing barometer is so cute. It's vintage. I got that at an auction as part of a lot, along with this vase. This is not a vase. This is a lamp. It was part of the same auction lot. And here you can see on the table, no! Oh my God, I'm sorry that I screamed. My cat just jumped in the middle of my pile of breakable vintage and antique pieces, and I had a heart attack. So sorry. Let's go back to where we were. Here I have a pile of things that I've collected from around the house that I thought I might be able to use in my vintage Valentine's Day decor. So I'm gonna show you how I put all of this together. Be a little bit of trial and error, but I do have an idea in my head, so let's see if we can do it. And Licorice is gonna be my assistant. Hey girl, you can help me? Oh, Indy's back. The nice thing about dogs is they can't jump up on table surfaces and break your house. Cats, not so much. Okay, let's get started. Okay, we have a nice clean mantle, and now let's redo it. Okay, so I've started by anchoring the pretty decorative pieces first, because if I like those heights and the spacing, then everything else should follow. And you can see that one piece, this guy, this is such a pretty piece of glass. This was my mother's. Actually, I think it was my grandmother's and then my mother's, if I'm not mistaken. But this one I gave a little bit of height to by placing it on a pretty stack of red linen books that I already had. So this is going to be kind of my foundation, and then I'm going to fill in around this. My next step is going to be to incorporate these red linen vintage and antique books. Actually, I think most of them are antique, a few of them are vintage. So that's next. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the books. I'll probably still play around with them. But my next step is to add in some black and white silhouettes that I think are really pretty and kind of romantic. And so even though you don't think of them as regular Valentine's Day decor, I think because they have these pretty romantic themes, they kind of go. And again, I like that it's not necessarily something expected, something that I would pick up at Dollar Tree or Target or Walmart. I like all of the stores and I go to all of those stores, but my goal here is to really create a vintage look. And my secondary goal is to use things that I already have around the house to the extent possible, as opposed to going out and investing money in things I'm only going to use for a couple of weeks. So here's the final result of what I came up with for my vintage Valentine's Day decor in my front parlor. I think it looks really pretty. I love all the color. I'm really in that mind frame, as I've said. And for an extra bonus, I have this red chair, and that was already there. That's not anything to do with Valentine's Day. So there it is, just a quick little Valentine's Day vignette, and it works for me. For my next challenge, I'm gonna see if I can do some Valentine's Day vintage decor on my hutch, where you see right now I have lots of Portmeirion, and I love my Portmeirion, but it would be fun to have a change, like I said, for just a few weeks. And I also want to add, I hope as you watch this vlog, you don't feel any pressure to do this yourself. I have no doubt you're busy enough. So if it's fun just to watch me do it, then I'm really glad, and because I want my videos to be entertaining and informative and a little break from reality. But if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, she's decorating her house for Valentine's Day, I have to, or I should, put that down. You don't. You leave your house exactly as it is, if that makes you happy and that's what you have time for. I just love vintage decor, and I love playing around with the things that I own. That's fun for me. That's relaxation for me. But if it isn't for you, friends, this is a no judgment zone. So let's clear out the space. Oh, let's first get rid of the cat. Okay, before I move the cat, can we just take a minute to appreciate how cute he is? He's so cute. I love this cat so much, but oh my goodness. Would he love nothing more than to just have a party in my china and watch it all crash to the floor? So as much as I love him, he's not gonna do that. He's gonna go away. Be right back. So the funny thing is, I just put him in the stairwell that leads to the master bedroom. But he knows that all he has to do is go through that part of the house and down the other staircase, and he'll be back. He'll be back for more fun. My hope is that he'll get distracted in the meantime by something else and buy myself some time. Otherwise, I could lock him in the porch, which is really a sunroom. That's where his sister is, Iris, my little white kitty you may have seen in other vlogs. But the thing is, he doesn't like to be in there, so if I put him in there, he's gonna bang on the door and make a bunch of obnoxious noise. So I'm trying to spare you from that experience. Okay, carry on. So I'm not sure exactly how this is going to shake out, but I do think I'm going to start by moving these white canisters. They were my grandmother's. I don't use them for every day because they are so fragile now, but I love the way they look. And I like the look of the pinks and reds of Valentine's Day intermixed with white. I feel like the white sort of calms down the other warmer colors. So I think I'll start by moving those. Well, it was my intention to show you how I put this hutch together using trial and error, but as I started to gather some things that I might be able to use, I realized it was going to be a bigger challenge than the other spaces. So yeah, it took me quite a while to figure out exactly how I wanted to put this together. I'm happy with how it came out, but I don't think I could recreate it if I wanted to. And I'm not sure I want to, but I think it's fun. I'll give you a close-up. As you can see, I decided to keep the canisters where they were on the top of the hutch. And I never really moved this scale because the bowl is so close to the ceiling that when I touch it, it scrapes. So that just always stays there. But I left them here. They were just taking up too much room inside the hutch. So I decided to use this pretty canister. This was my mother-in-law's, Mrs. Stevens. And this toll tray, and a couple of postcards and a floral frog, and this pretty tin that was my grandmother's. And then down here I put a Wedgwood paperweight that my mother had given me, and some old books from my collection. This pretty tulip was from Holland. There's some old postcards behind it. I love this Lenox vase. And I have some faux tulips inside those. I tried to kind of drape them in a Rembrandt fashion. And just a candlestick that was already there. I took some spools of pretty thread and put them in this pink depression glass bowl that I recently thrifted. And there's just some more books to give some color and structure. Here I have my final tin. I don't know if you can see, it's a light pink in real life. I'm not sure that's coming across. And then I popped some very pretty, we're getting such a glare. Let me see, I'll stand in front of it, that helps. Some very pretty antique postcards and some frames that I had. And a pressed glass candy dish with more candy hearts in it. Back here we have a heart-shaped cookie cutter and more postcards and some pretty toile napkins that I just tied up with a string, piece of yarn. So that is what I ended up doing. And it's definitely not perfect, but it gives me that little pop of Valentine's Day vintage cheer I was really looking for. What I thought was really challenging for some reason with the kitchen was, to start with, the hutch itself is yellow. So I'm already beginning with a color that's not really in the palette that I'm going for, but of course I'm not about to repaint my hutch for Valentine's Day, good grief. So then as I started to bring in different colors, I found like I had some cranberry glass that was just too red. I brought in some really pretty painted Limoges plates. They were just a little too faint and a little too pink. So it was hard to get the vintagey vibe I was going for. I have lots of really pretty, like I said, I have lots of really pretty Limoges. I have Limoges tea sets and little cups and saucers. I have lots of really pretty things with light pink. But I wanted something just a little bit more sort of vintagey, homey, and I wasn't going really for expensive and delicate. I don't know if that makes any sense. And the faint pink with some of these more vibrant colors was just getting lost, and then the patterns were starting to look very busy. So I was really happy with this. I had another tool tray I desperately wanted to use. I'll show it to you. It's this one, and it's not a big tray, but unfortunately it just didn't fit. It came really close, but didn't fit, because I thought that would have been really nice, especially with the other one up here. I have a collection of toll trays, and only a small portion of them are shown in the house because it's hard to find the right spaces for it. 2 houses ago, I had a whole wall in my kitchen, and I hung the whole wall gallery style with toll trays. and it was so pretty. I really loved it, but I try to pop them around the house where I can and use them where they make sense to use. And I think the whole fun of a house is changing things out from time to time to get different looks. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you that I decided to rearrange the kitchen hutch one more time. It just wasn't sitting right with me, and I knew I could do better. So this is what I came up with. I decided to incorporate the canisters after all, but to split them up instead of having them as a set. I did use the tray with the yellow flowers to go with the yellow hutch, and the other tray is behind it for a little extra dimension. I decided to only use books from the same set so that it would have the same color and more consistency. And I think it looks really pretty with this tray that I thrifted recently. It was in one of my thrifting videos, my thrifting haul videos recently. And then I stacked the other two canisters. So I like it. I think it looks more unified now than it did before. And I popped some Lenox pieces and a Wedgwood piece just to continue with the white theme. And I'm now officially going to let it go. I hope this video has given you some ideas for vintage Valentine's Day decor for your house. And equally, I hope that you really took to heart what I said about if you don't have time or you just don't want to decorate your house in that way, then don't. Either way is fine, and I'm sure your house is perfect just the way it is. However, if you do feel like decorating and you want some ideas, some of the big takeaways that I would share with you include the following. First of all, certainly antique postcards. They're fantastic. And as an added bonus, so easy to store. When you're done with them, you can literally toss them into a desk drawer and call it a day. But they are fantastic to decorate with and just super fun. I also really like vintage or antique Valentine's Day greeting cards. There's some really nice ones on eBay that are not very expensive. A lot of the pretty ones seem to be from Germany, but that's another whole avenue that you could go down. And if you do want to, I would suggest that you pick up a photo stand, or if you have some frames lying around, you use those. Those antique flower frog stands are great and can be used as a photo stand, as I showed you, or you can just lean the postcards or greeting cards against a wall or a shelf or anything else that's handy. But that's for sure my favorite one. The second one would be the candy hearts. You saw them in two different bowls. One was an ashtray. I know that's kind of gross. I'm sorry. I swear it was clean. But candy hearts are pretty. You could even put them in like an old mason jar with the metal snap lids. That would be pretty. I've seen them in like little glass pitchers. There's a million ways you could display them. My best advice is not to eat them. They taste like chalk. I'm just saying. I think heart-shaped chocolate boxes are a great decoration, and the best part is you get to eat the chocolate inside them. This year I plan to save my box, and that way I'll have one all ready for next Valentine's Day. And then if I decide to pick up another one, maybe in a different size, then I could even stack them if I felt like doing that. Some people get really crafty and they paint them or they decoupage them. Sky's the limit. I like them just as they are, but there's no reason why you couldn't make that a fun project if you wanted to. Another great idea, you know, I'm not doing brain surgery here. It's pretty well known. Flowers are a great decoration idea for Valentine's Day. Certainly pink, red, and white roses are beautiful, or carnations are lovely. There's so many different flowers that are attractive. I love real flowers, and I enjoy having them in my house. I'm not having them in my house right now because of my Destructo cats, but I hope to soon once they grow out of this phase that they're in. And I love the gardening season when I can actually grow my own flowers. There's nothing better than being able to grow your own flowers if you have the space and the inclination to do something like that. If not though, fake flowers are great. I've been using fake flowers more and more. Honestly, they're like real flowers, except there's no dramatic maintenance with them. You don't have to water them. You don't have to worry about them. The water doesn't get yucky. So they definitely have their bonuses. And if you make careful selections, you can find some that look super nice. I think those pink tulips that I showed you were fairly realistic looking, and I'm very happy with them. I think another great vintage decoration idea for Valentine's Day is any kind of heart-shaped mold. Mine was tin. I think copper ones are lovely. Wooden ones are really nice. Cookie cutters are awesome. There's all different ways you could go with that, and they're great because you can actually use them and make something special for Valentine's Day, for a dessert or for a treat, or else you can just use them as part of your regular decor. They look lovely any which way. You could just put them on the mantle like I did. You could put them on shelves. Sometimes they have little hangers, or you can find a way to affix them to the wall, and even have a whole bunch. At one point I had over my stove a whole collection of copper molds that was very pretty. And there's wooden ones and there's ceramic ones, and there's so many different ways to do it, but it's pretty. And I think the dimension of it is especially nice. So that's a great idea. And as you saw in my hutch, I think that linen books, vintage linen books or antique books, look really nice and definitely pull together a vintage look. I love my books. I read my books. Those books are part of my regular collection. I didn't purchase them just for decorating. And as I told you before, my goal was to really use what I had and not pick up a lot of new things. But I think they add a lot, and I'm a big fan of book collecting in general, as you know, if you've been watching my vlogs. I think simple garlands can be really pretty, and there's a lot of ways to do them so they have a vintage look to them, even though they're not really an old-fashioned kind of thing to do. If you're drawn to them like I am, you can make your own. I did mine with a little sewing project. You could easily use some fabric glue or just cut out some felt shapes. You could buy inexpensive garlands. I saw a cute one at Target. They're all over the place, but that can add a little bit of a festive touch for your Valentine's Day. And some other ideas that I didn't show you, but I think work really well, are things like throw blankets in pink or red. I love like a light pink chunky knit throw blanket for Valentine's Day, just a little splash of color. I think that looks really pretty if you get the right one. I think pillows that are either made in a vintage fabric or have a kind of vintage fabric look to them can be really pretty if you pick them out thoughtfully. Certainly, I mean, when can't you use, candles in pink or red or white? They're always wonderful to have. I'm always burning candles. I'm careful around the cats, no worries about that. Certainly mugs with hearts in them. And if you want to really, be splashy, you can get lights with hearts in them. You can get hanging murals. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. I feel like I'm forgetting something. In terms of wall hangings, I saw a really cute red heart-shaped wall hanging at Target. I came so close to getting it. It had an old-fashioned look, but it was super cute. And I've seen a few with pom-pom balls that are, kind of silly, but kind of fun. Those would be interesting to have. I'll try to find the picture so I can share it with you. I mean, I think the bottom line is whatever you do or don't do, it should be something that is just fun for you, something that you enjoy, something that you get a kick out of. And if you don't want to do it yourself, it's fun to watch somebody else who doesn't mind doing it. I love to decorate. As I said, I love vintage and antique anything. And so one of the really fun parts for me about making these videos is getting to really dig deep into my beloved hobby, and hopefully maybe inspiring you to think about things in your home a little bit differently. And even if you don't want them for yourself, maybe developing a deeper appreciation for them. So when you see them out in the wild, so to speak, at tag sales or estate sales or antique stores or flea markets or wherever you may find yourself, maybe you're looking at an old object through new eyes. I think that would be pretty cool. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you liked this video. It was really fun to make it. And I'm sorry for all the cat drama, but I think it's good to leave some of those clips in so you have a real sense of what things are like around here. I like to share my pain just a little bit with you, and also share the cuteness. As we leave, I'm going to insert some clips of my sewing project when I was making the heart garland that you saw in my fireplace in the kitchen. Just in case you're interested, it's not a tutorial. I'm not qualified to teach anybody anything like that, but it was fun to do. And if you're interested in checking it out, then stay with me. And if you're not, thank you for joining. And whether you decide to watch that sewing project or not, I would be so appreciative if you would hit like if you liked this video and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow and it helps me to continue making videos for you. And I hope whatever time of day it is for you right now, you have a great day. Thanks for joining me.